Hey everybody! So, to start our study of evolution, the first thing we're going to look at is the geologic timescale. And this is important because it's basically a timeline of the whole history of the Earth, and it helps biologists and geologists to study how living things have evolved over time. So it's basically a timeline of the history of Earth, and not just the history of humans, but going right back to the formation of the Earth, which is about 4.5 billion years ago. So 4.5 billion years ago. Okay. So it's called the geological timescale because geologists use it as well. And this diagram here is showing us that the further you dig downwards in layers of rock, the older the rocks are, generally. And so geologists, as they've found lots of different rock layers over the last hundreds of years of studying geology, they've found that each rock layer tends to have different species in. And then they've named those time periods on the time scale based on the species that they've found. So you might have heard of a few of them. There's the Jurassic period here, and the Triassic and the Cretaceous. That's when all the large land dinosaurs were still alive, other than the birds. And before that, there's a whole lot of other periods too. So this is a good way of visualizing the geologic timescale. But this one's not particularly accurate because it's not to scale. Because you can see here, humans really only first evolved about 1.8 million years ago. The species Homo sapiens, which is only the tiniest sliver of time in the history of Earth. So this one here is a lot more accurate. So here's the whole 4.6 billion years of Earth. The first life really only, well, scientists think the first life evolved about 4.2 billion years ago. Way back in this eon called the Hadean. And that was still single-celled life all through that time for billions of years. And we think that life was only just starting to evolve into multicellular life about 1.5 billion years ago. So for most of the Earth's history, life's only been single-celled bacteria and other prokaryotes. So multicellular life. And then, really, all the interesting and modern plants and animals that we know today really only started to evolve way up here about 500 million years ago. So for most of the Earth's history, not much was going on with life. It was just single cells. And it's really these last eras here where vertebrates and plants, so vertebrate animals with backbones and the plants, they evolved and Earth started to look more like it does today. So that's why the last 500 million years has this a lot more detail in the scale to divide it up into lots more smaller periods that describe the different species. But for now, we just need to know what the timescale is and the fact that it runs for 4.5 billion years, the history of Earth.